The courtroom fell silent. Not the peaceful kind, the suffocating kind, thick with held breath and unspoken verdicts.
Vera's hands lay flat on the table, perfectly still. Across from her sat Arthur, the man who'd slept beside her for 45 years. Next to him, Brenda, daughter-in-law, mother of her grandson, architect of her destruction. Arthur's face wore carefully crafted concern. Brenda dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, playing the devoted family member. They thought she was dying, mentally, at least. They'd tried to bury her alive, not with soil, but with lies.
The lawyer's voice cut through the tension like a scalpel.
Mr. Thompson, you testified that your wife began showing severe cognitive decline, that you found salt in the sugar bowl, that she couldn't find the grocery store she'd visited for 30 years, that this concerned you deeply.
His voice trembled with false grief. But Vera heard something else, a memory, sharp as broken glass, a midnight whisper from the kitchen.
You switch it yourself. Make it look real.
And Arthur's voice returning from the DMV.
I owe him a favor. Don't worry, it's for your safety.
Every piece clicked into place, a puzzle of betrayal, meticulously arranged.
45 years. They believed love had blinded her, that age had weakened her, that she'd shatter easily. But they'd forgotten one thing. She was Arthur's wife, yes, a mother, a homemaker. But never, not for one moment, had she stopped being Vera. And Vera remembered everything.
She lifted her eyes, met her husband's gaze across the courtroom. No more tears, no more fear, just cold, crystalline clarity. Soon, their perfect masks would crack. Soon, the curtain would fall on their carefully staged tragedy. And Vera had written every word of the final act herself. But how did it begin? How does a 45-year marriage become a battlefield? To understand the war, we must return to the moment when the first shot was fired. The crisp October morning when Vera's carefully constructed world began to crack. The coffee maker hissed and gurgled, the same sound it had made every morning for the past 12 years. Vera stood at the kitchen counter, measuring grounds with the precision of 45 years of practice. 2 scoops for Arthur, 1.5 for herself. Outside the window, autumn leaves tumbled across the driveway in shades of rust and gold. Everything was exactly as it should be, except it wasn't. Vera's hand paused over the sugar bowl. Something felt wrong. She lifted the lid, peered inside. The crystals were too coarse, too irregular. She touched one to her tongue. Salt. Her pulse quickened. Had she? No, that was impossible. She'd used this bowl yesterday. Sugar. Definitely sugar. She remembered sweetening her afternoon tea, remembered the familiar dissolve against her spoon. Someone had switched it. But who would?
Morning, sweetheart.
Arthur's voice from the doorway made her jump. She turned, forcing a smile. He stood there in his striped bathrobe, reading glasses perched on his nose, looking exactly like the man she'd woken up beside for 45 years. Except lately, when she looked at him, she saw a stranger wearing her husband's face.
Good morning. Coffee's almost ready.
Did you remember to pick up my blood pressure medication yesterday?
The question landed like a stone in her stomach. She had remembered. She'd driven to the pharmacy, picked it up, placed it in the medicine cabinet. She was certain of it. Wasn't she?
Yes, it's in the cabinet.
I checked. It's not there.
His tone was gentle, concerned. The kind of voice you'd use with a confused child. That's what made it unbearable.
Maybe you forgot? It's okay, Vera. These things happen. We're getting older.
We? As if they were both declining together. But Vera's mind was sharp. She tracked every bill, every appointment, every grocery item in the ledger she'd kept since her 20s. She didn't forget things.
I'll check again after breakfast.
She poured his coffee, hands steady, despite the doubt creeping through her mind like frost. Arthur settled at the kitchen table with his newspaper. The ritual was so familiar, it hurt. 45 years of mornings just like this. 45 years of trust. When had it started to crack? The coffee tasted bitter, even with sugar from the backup container. Vera watched her husband over the rim of her cup. He turned pages with methodical precision, occasionally making small sounds of disapproval at the news. Everything normal, everything fine, except for the salt in the sugar bowl, except for the medication that had vanished, except for the way he looked at her lately, assessing, calculating, like she was a problem requiring a solution.
Brenda's coming by this afternoon.
Vera's grip tightened on her cup. Brenda, her daughter-in-law, widow of their son Michael, gone 5 years now in a highway accident that still felt like yesterday. Brenda had been part of the family for 15 years, but lately she came by too often, stayed too long, looked at Arthur with eyes that lingered a heartbeat too long.
Oh, what for?
Just checking in. You know how she worries about you.
About you, not about us. The pronoun choice wasn't lost on Vera. Hours later, Vera stood at the senior center, clipboard in hand, coordinating shuttle schedules for the afternoon routes. The work was simple, part-time, barely paid. But it was hers, a reason to leave the house 3 days a week. A reminder that she was still capable, still useful.
You look troubled, Vera.
Wallace Finch, Wally to everyone, stood beside the coffee station, 2 cups in hand. He was Arthur's age, maybe a year older, with kind eyes and the patience of someone who'd spent 40 years working in law offices, learning to read people's silences.
Just a long morning.
The kind that needs coffee or the kind that needs conversation?
Vera almost laughed, almost told him. But what would she say? My husband switched salt and sugar. My medication disappears. I think I'm losing my mind, or someone wants me to think I am.
Coffee's fine. Thank you, Wally.
She took the cup he offered. Their fingers brushed. Brief, warm, human contact. When was the last time Arthur had touched her, except in passing?
You know where to find me, if conversation becomes necessary.
He said it like a promise, like he meant it. Vera nodded, not trusting her voice. By the time she drove home, afternoon shadows stretched long across the lawn. Brenda's car sat in the driveway, a sleek sedan, far too expensive for someone who'd supposedly struggled since Michael's death. Vera had never asked where the money came from. She'd assumed life insurance, savings, something legitimate. Now she wondered. Inside, voices drifted from the living room. Low, intimate. Vera paused in the hallway, listening.
She seems worse. Did you see her this morning with the coffee?
The sugar bowl. I made sure to switch it last night.
Vera's breath stopped. The world tilted, righted itself, tilted again, made sure to switch it. Last night.
Do you think she suspects?
Vera, no. She trusts me completely. Always has.
The casual cruelty of it. The certainty. Vera's hand found the wall, steadying herself against the wave of nausea that threatened to pull her under.
And the driving test next week?
Handled. I spoke to Clifford. He owes me a favor. She'll fail.
Clifford Barnes. The DMV examiner Arthur had known for 20 years, back when Arthur was still managing the bank branch and Clifford needed a loan for his son's troubles. The pieces were arranging themselves into a picture Vera didn't want to see.
Once she loses the license, it'll be easier. No independence. More confusion. The doctors will...
Shh! I thought I heard something.
Vera backed away, silent as smoke, into the kitchen. She ran water, clattered dishes, announced her presence with manufactured noise, then walked to the living room doorway, smile fixed in place like a mask.
Brenda, I didn't hear you come in.
Mom!
Brenda rose, arms extended for a hug. She was 45, but dressed younger. Tight jeans, low-cut blouse, hair bleached almost white. Her embrace smelled of expensive perfume and something else. Guilt, maybe, or triumph.
I was just telling Arthur how worried I am about you. You look tired.
Mom. She'd started calling Vera that after Michael died, though Vera had never asked her to. Never felt the bond that word implied.
I'm fine, just busy at the center.
Actually, sweetheart, Brenda and I wanted to talk to you about something.
Sweetheart, he used to mean it. Now it sounded like a script, words said out of habit rather than feeling.
We think, well, we're concerned about your driving. You've had a few close calls lately.
Close calls?
Last week, you almost ran that stop sign near the grocery store.
She hadn't. She'd stopped completely, counted to 3 like she always did. But she'd been alone in the car. No witnesses except Arthur's word against hers.
We just want you to be safe, Mom. Maybe it's time for a refresher test. Just to make sure everything's okay?
The trap was so carefully laid, concern masquerading as love. Vera saw it now, clear as the autumn light streaming through the windows. They were building a case, salt in the sugar bowl, missing medications, forgotten appointments. Soon, a failed driving test, all leading somewhere she couldn't yet see but could feel approaching like a storm.
That's thoughtful of you both. I'll schedule something.
Already done. Next Tuesday, Clifford Barnes is doing the evaluation personally. Old friend, he'll be very thorough.
Of course he would. That was the point. After Brenda left, another lingering hug, another worried look, Vera stood at the kitchen sink, washing dishes that didn't need washing. Through the window, she watched Arthur walk Brenda to her car. They stood close, too close. Arthur's hand touched the small of Brenda's back. Vera's own hands shook in the dishwater. That night, she couldn't sleep. Arthur snored beside her, peaceful, untroubled. 45 years she'd listened to that sound. 45 years she'd believed in the man making it. After midnight, she heard movement downstairs. Footsteps, careful and quiet. She rose, moving on silent feet to the hallway, peered down into the darkened living room. Arthur and Brenda, together on the sofa, his arms around her, her face turned up to his. Vera watched her marriage end in a kiss she wasn't supposed to see. She didn't gasp, didn't cry out, just backed away, step by step, until she was in the bedroom again, door closed, body shaking with a rage so cold it burned. In the darkness, she found the old ledger she'd kept since she was 25. Pages and pages of careful record-keeping, bills paid, appointments kept, a life documented in neat columns and precise handwriting. She opened to a new page, wrote the date, then underneath, in the same careful hand she'd used for 40 years, betrayal, evidence required, justice necessary. Vera Mae Thompson, 69 years old, wife of 45 years, mother of one son taken too soon. She closed the ledger with a soft snap that sounded like a door closing. Or perhaps a door opening. They thought age had weakened her. That love had blinded her. That she'd be easy to manipulate, easy to break, easy to discard. They'd forgotten one important thing. Vera remembered everything. And now she had a plan. The driving test was 5 days away. Vera had 5 days to become someone she'd never been. A liar, a spy, a woman playing dead while she gathered the weapons that would destroy those who'd betrayed her. The war had begun, and Vera always kept her accounts balanced. Morning came too soon and not soon enough. Vera had lain awake through the dark hours, listening to Arthur's breathing, cataloging every moment of betrayal in her mind. By the time pale light filtered through the curtains, she'd made her decision. She would become what they already thought she was, confused, declining, harmless. And while they watched her stumble through their carefully constructed maze, she would build her own path out. First, she needed help, real help. the kind that understood the legal shape of betrayal. At the senior center later that morning, Vera found Wally in his usual spot near the bulletin board, reading glasses perched low on his nose as he studied the community events calendar. He looked up when she approached, and whatever he saw in her face made him set down his coffee.
The conversation kind of morning.
The kind that needs more than coffee can fix.
They found a quiet corner in the unused craft room, door half closed. Vera sat across from him at a table still dusted with glitter from last week's card-making class. Strange. How normal things continued while your world cracked apart.
Tell me.
And she did. Not everything. Not yet about the midnight kiss. Not about the 45 years of marriage dissolving in her hands. But enough. The salt switched for sugar. The missing medication that Arthur himself had hidden. The conversation she'd overheard about making her fail her driving test. Wally listened without interruption, his face growing graver with each word. When she finished, silence stretched between them, filled only with the distant sound of someone's walker squeaking down the hallway.
This is serious, Vera. What you're describing, it's called gaslighting, making you doubt your own perception, your own memory. And if they're planning to have you declared incompetent,
They want me out of the way, permanently.
then we need to document everything. Build a record that proves you're of sound mind. And we need a lawyer, a good one.
He pulled out his phone, one of those large buttoned models designed for older hands, and scrolled through his contacts. After 40 years working in law offices, Wally knew everyone worth knowing in the legal community.
Sarah Mitchell, family law specialist. She's sharp, ethical, and she doesn't lose often. Let me call her.
While Wally made the call, Vera's hands found the edge of the table, gripping hard enough that her knuckles went white. This was real now. She was really going to fight back. After 45 years of being Arthur Thompson's wife, of smoothing over conflicts and keeping the peace, she was choosing war.
She can see you tomorrow. 2:00. I'll come with you if you want.
I want.
The words came out stronger than she'd expected. Maybe that's what happened when you stopped pretending everything was fine. You found strength you didn't know you had. That afternoon, Vera did something she'd never done before. She went online. Arthur had taught her the basics years ago, though he'd always hovered, always controlled what she saw. And she searched how to record audio secretly, how to document evidence of manipulation, how to prove someone is trying to make you seem incompetent. Vera wasn't alone. That realization hit her like a wave. She wasn't the first person to face this, and others had fought back. Others had won. By evening, she'd ordered 3 small voice-activated recording devices to be delivered to the senior center instead of home. $30 each, $90 total. She paid with the credit card Arthur didn't know she still had. The one in her maiden name, kept active all these years with small purchases he never noticed. Insurance, she'd always thought. Now, ammunition. The next day, the meeting with Sarah Mitchell lasted 2 hours. The lawyer's office was small but organized, shelves lined with legal texts, a desk covered in neat stacks of files. Sarah herself was 50-something, gray hair cut short, eyes that missed nothing.
Tell me everything. Don't leave anything out, even if it seems small.
So Vera did. This time, everything. The affair, the kiss, the systematic undermining of her confidence and independence. By the time she finished, Sarah was taking notes in rapid shorthand, her expression carefully neutral.
What they're doing, the gaslighting, the manipulation, planning to have you declared incompetent. If we can prove it, it's fraud, possibly elder abuse. But proof is everything, Vera. It's your word against theirs right now. We need evidence.
I'm working on that.
Good. Document everything. dates, times, witnesses. If they're having an affair, we need proof. If they're manipulating your medical records or your driving test, we need proof. The court won't act on suspicions.
The lawyer leaned forward, her voice gentler.
I have to ask, are you safe at home? If you feel threatened,
They don't want to hurt me physically. They want me alive but powerless. That's worse in some ways.
then let's make sure that doesn't happen. I'll start preliminary work on a protective filing, just in case. But the stronger your evidence, the stronger our position. Can you do this? Can you live in that house, act normal, while gathering what we need?
Vera thought of 45 years of acting normal, of smiling through disappointments, of keeping peace at any cost. She'd been practicing for this her whole life.
I can do this.
The recording devices arrived on a gray afternoon 3 days later. Vera picked them up at the senior center, the small package feeling heavy with possibility. That night, while Arthur worked in his study and Brenda's nightly phone call occupied his attention, when had that become routine? Vera placed the first device behind the living room clock. The second went under Arthur's desk, tucked into the tangle of computer cables. The third she saved for the bedroom, hidden in the silk flower arrangement on her dresser. Her hands shook as she positioned each one. If Arthur found them, if he realized what she was doing. But no, he thought her weak, confused, incapable. That was her advantage now. His contempt was her camouflage. The first recording that mattered came 2 nights later. Vera lay in bed, pretending sleep, while the device in the flowers captured every word.
She's getting worse. Today she couldn't remember where we keep the coffee filters. I had to show her. Again.
Brenda's voice came through clearly, even over the phone's speaker.
That's good, though, right? The more confused she seems, the easier the guardianship petition will be.
The driving test is tomorrow. Clifford knows what to do. Once she loses her license, we can start talking about her not being safe to live alone.
She's not alone. She has you.
For now, but the lawyers said, once we have guardianship, I can make decisions about her care. Residential care, if necessary.
Residential care, a nursing home. They wanted to lock her away, take everything she had, and visit on holidays with sad faces and empty sympathy. Vera's eyes stayed closed, her breathing steady, while rage burned cold in her chest.
How much longer do you think?
Few months, maybe. We need to be patient. Make it look natural. By spring, we could have the house sold and be on that beach in Costa Rica you keep talking about.
I miss you. I hate these phone calls. I want to be there with you.
Soon. I promise. I love you.
The words he used to say to Vera. The promises he used to mean. Now, spoken to someone else while Vera lay 3 feet away, invisible. After he hung up and his breathing deepened into sleep, Vera allowed herself one silent tear. Then she wiped it away and mentally added to her ledger. Recording, Arthur and Brenda discussing guardianship fraud. Date, time, location. Evidence collected. The driving test the next morning was theater. Vera knew it going in. Clifford Barnes met her at the DMV with an encouraging smile that didn't reach his eyes. He was younger than Arthur, maybe 55, with thinning hair and the nervous energy of someone carrying a secret he didn't want.
Mrs. Thompson, ready for your evaluation?
As ready as I'll ever be.
She performed adequately, not perfectly, that would be suspicious, but well enough that any honest examiner would have passed her. She signaled properly, checked her mirrors, maintained the speed limit. Clifford took notes on his clipboard, his pen scratching loud in the quiet car.
And here, you'll want to make a complete stop at the sign.
Vera had stopped. Completely. 3 seconds, just like always. But Clifford wrote something down anyway. At the parallel parking section, she lined up perfectly on her first try. Clifford frowned.
Let's try that again. I didn't get a clear view.
The second time, he stood directly in her line of sight, forcing her to adjust her angle. Then he wrote down that she'd needed multiple attempts. By the time they returned to the DMV, Vera's hands were steady on the wheel, but her heart was hammering. This was it, the moment they'd planned, the trap closing.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Thompson. You're going to need more practice before I can pass you. We'll schedule a retest for next month.
Next month, and then another month, and another, until she never drove again.
I understand. Thank you for your time.
She called Wally from the parking lot, voice shaking despite her best efforts.
I failed, just like they planned.
Then we document it. You said he made you redo the parallel parking.
Twice, and marked me down for not stopping at a sign when I did stop.
Write it all down. Every detail. Tonight, when you have time, I want you to write out exactly what happened, what he said, what you actually did versus what he claimed. We're building a timeline, Vera. Every piece matters.
That night, while Arthur celebrated her failure with sympathetic words and worried looks, Vera sat at the kitchen table with her ledger. She wrote it all: the test, the recordings, the lawyer's name and number, page after page of careful documentation, her handwriting as precise as it had been for 45 years. This ledger had tracked grocery expenses and utility bills and the slow accumulation of a life built with someone she trusted. Now it tracked the evidence that would destroy him. She was almost finished when Arthur came into the kitchen, glass of water in hand. He glanced at the open ledger.
Still keeping track of everything, I see. That's good. Helps with the memory.
Condescension dripped from every word. Vera smiled up at him.
Old habits, you know me.
I do. 45 years of knowing you.
But he didn't. He knew who she'd been. The accommodating wife, the peacekeeper. He had no idea who she was becoming. A woman with recording devices hidden throughout her home. A woman with a lawyer on speed dial. A woman learning to be ruthless because ruthlessness was the only language her enemies spoke.
Don't stay up too late. You need your rest.
After he left, Vera returned to her ledger. Under tonight's date, she wrote, Arthur saw the ledger. Didn't suspect. They think I'm harmless. Good. Over the next week, the recordings piled up. Arthur and Brenda's phone calls, detailed and damning. Plans to sell the house. Discussions about which nursing home had the best prices. Casual mentions of when Vera's out of the picture. Each conversation, Vera downloaded to a thumb drive she kept in a tampon box in the bathroom, the one place Arthur would never look. But recordings of an affair weren't enough. Sarah had been clear. They needed proof of the fraud, proof of the manufactured incompetence. And that meant Vera had to do something dangerous. She had to search Arthur's computer. He kept it in his study, password protected. But Vera had watched him type it in 1,000 times over the years. His mother's maiden name and his birth year. Not creative, but he'd never imagined Vera as a threat. She waited until a Tuesday afternoon, when Arthur had his weekly golf game and wouldn't be home for hours. Her hands trembled as she opened his study door. The room smelled like him. Aftershave and paper and the faint staleness of a space that belonged to only one person. The computer hummed to life. She typed the password, held her breath. Access granted. Vera's heart pounded so hard she could hear it in her ears. She opened his browser history first, deleted items, but she knew how to check the trash folder. There, searches for early onset dementia symptoms, how to document mental incompetence, guardianship requirements, Illinois. She took photos with her phone. Click, 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 each image another nail in Arthur's coffin. Then she found the emails, a folder hidden in his drafts, messages to Brenda that had never been sent, but were saved like love letters. They detailed everything. The plan to make Vera seem incompetent, the agreement with Clifford to fail her driving test, even, and this made Vera's blood run cold, a downloaded medical form for psychiatric evaluation, blank and waiting to be filled out fraudulently. She photographed everyone. Her hands steadied as she worked. This was it. This was the proof Sarah needed. Not just an affair, a criminal conspiracy. A car door slammed outside. Vera's head snapped up. Through the study window, she saw Arthur's car in the driveway. Golf game ended early. He was home. Panic flooded through her. She closed the email, cleared the browser history of her intrusion, shut down the computer. Footsteps on the front porch. Keys jingling. She had seconds. Vera grabbed the trash can from under Arthur's desk, the legitimate reason she'd tell him she was in here, and was halfway to the door when it opened.
Vera, what are you doing in my study?
She held up the trash can, proud of how steady her voice came out.
Emptying the garbage. Tuesday's trash day, remember?
He looked at her, at the trash can, at the computer, now dark and silent. For one terrible moment, she thought he knew, thought he could see through her, see the photos on her phone, see the truth she'd uncovered.
Right, of course. Thank you, sweetheart.
He kissed her forehead, a habit, meaningless as breathing, and walked past her to his desk. Vera carried the trash can out, down the hallway, to the kitchen, set it down carefully. Only then did she allow her hands to shake. That night, she sent everything to Sarah Mitchell. The photos, the recordings, the detailed timeline. Subject line, evidence. Sarah's response came within an hour. 2 words, call me. Vera stepped outside into the October darkness, phone clutched in her hand, stars overhead, cold and distant. She dialed.
Vera, this is extraordinary. The search history alone shows premeditation. The emails to Brenda, the medical form. This isn't just an affair. This is fraud. Conspiracy. If we can prove Clifford took money or favors to fail you.
We can prove it. Arthur mentioned owing him a favor. It'll be in the bank records. A payment, a loan, something.
Then we have them. We actually have them. But Vera, listen to me. You cannot let them know you suspect. Not yet. We need to be ready before we move. If they file for guardianship before we're prepared.
How long until we're ready?
A few weeks, maybe a month. I need to depose some witnesses, get your own psychiatric evaluation proving competency, track down those bank records. Can you hold on that long?
A month of living with Arthur, of pretending, of playing the role of confused, declining wife while he and Brenda planned her erasure.
I can hold on as long as it takes.
That night, Vera updated her ledger one final time before bed. Evidence collected, comprehensive. Timeline, documented. Legal strategy, in progress. Arthur suspects nothing. She closed the book and placed it in her nightstand drawer. Across the room, Arthur slept peacefully, dreaming whatever dreams betrayers dream. Vera lay awake, staring at the ceiling. She'd spent 45 years in this bed. 45 years trusting the man beside her. Now she was counting down the days until she could destroy him. The war had begun in shadows and silence, but soon it would explode into the light. And Vera would be ready. Evidence was one thing. Proof that would stand up in court was another. And the weakest link in Arthur's conspiracy wasn't Arthur himself. It was Clifford Barnes, a man with debts, a man with guilt, a man who could be broken. Vera had 1 month to make it happen. The question was, could she become the kind of person who broke other people? She was about to find out. November arrived with cold rain and bare branches. Vera watched the leaves disappear from the trees outside her kitchen window, thinking about erosion. How slowly, steadily, everything could be stripped away until only the skeleton remained. She'd been living 2 lives for 3 weeks now. In one life, she was the confused wife Arthur expected, forgetting where she'd put her keys, asking him to repeat things he'd just said, moving through the house with the careful uncertainty of someone losing their grip. In her other life, the real one, she was sharp as winter air, documenting, recording, building a case that would bury them all. But Sarah Mitchell had been clear. The recordings of the affair weren't enough. The computer evidence was damning but circumstantial. They needed the smoking gun, proof that Clifford Barnes had deliberately failed Vera's driving test in exchange for something of value. Without that, Arthur could claim the test was legitimate, that Vera really was declining, that everything else was just a troubled marriage. They needed Clifford to confess. Vera sat across from Wally and Sarah in the lawyer's office, the afternoon light slanting through half-closed blinds. On the table between them lay a file folder thick with evidence. 3 weeks of work. 3 weeks of pretending.
Clifford Barnes is our weak link. Arthur's protected by spousal privilege on some conversations. Brenda can claim the affair was just emotional support between family members. But Clifford, he's a government employee who accepted a bribe to falsify an official test. That's a crime. And criminals, when cornered, tend to talk.
The question is how to corner him without tipping off Arthur.
Sarah pulled out another file, thinner than Vera's, but just as important.
I had a private investigator do some digging. Clifford Barnes, 56, divorced, 1 son. The son, Tyler Barnes, has a gambling problem. Lost his job 6 months ago, currently living with his father and racking up debts. Sports betting, mostly. Owes money to some people who aren't patient about collection.
Arthur paid off some of Tyler's debts. That was the favor Clifford owed.
Probably. But I need more than probably. I need bank records showing a payment from Arthur to either Clifford or Tyler, and I need it dated close to your driving test. Can you access Arthur's banking information?
Vera thought about the file cabinet in Arthur's study, the locked drawer where he kept financial records. She'd never tried to open it, had never had a reason to. Until now.
I can try.
And if you get the records, if we can prove the payment, then what? We confront Clifford.
We give him a choice. Confess and testify, get ahead of the investigation, maybe avoid prison time, or wait for the authorities to figure it out on their own, lose everything. Most people, when you put it like that, they choose confession.
Vera heard the words prison time and felt nothing. No sympathy for Clifford, caught in Arthur's web. He'd made his choice when he marked down false answers on her test. When he'd looked her in the eye and lied, they were all going to pay, every single one of them. That night, Vera waited until Arthur's snoring settled into the deep rhythm that meant he wouldn't wake easily. Then she slipped from bed, silent as smoke, and made her way to his study. The locked drawer was a problem. She'd need the key, and Arthur kept his keys in his pocket during the day, on his nightstand at night. Taking them would wake him. But Vera had lived in this house for 45 years. She knew every loose floorboard, every squeaky hinge, every secret it kept, including the fact that Arthur kept a spare key taped under his desk drawer. She'd found it years ago while cleaning, had never mentioned it, had filed the information away as unimportant. Nothing was unimportant anymore. She felt along the underside of the drawer, fingers finding the small metal shape. The tape had yellowed with age, but still held. She peeled it free, hands steadier than they had any right to be. The locked drawer opened with a soft click that sounded like thunder in the silent house. Inside, folders organized with Arthur's typical precision. Tax returns, investment statements, bank records going back 5 years. Vera pulled out the statements from September and October. Used her phone to photograph each page, the flash turned off, holding the camera as steady as she could. There, a payment to Tyler Barnes. $5,000, dated 2 days before her driving test. Memo line, personal loan. Personal loan. As if that would fool anyone who looked closely. She photographed everything. Then she put it all back exactly as she'd found it, locked the drawer, returned the key to its hiding place. 12 minutes from start to finish. 12 minutes that might end Arthur's freedom. By the time she slid back into bed, her heart was pounding so hard she thought it might wake him. But Arthur slept on, peaceful and unaware that his wife had just stolen the evidence that would destroy him. The next morning, Sarah Mitchell called after seeing the photos.
This is it. This is what we needed. $5,000 to Tyler Barnes, right before your test. Combined with your testimony about what Clifford did during the exam, this proves bribery. Now we need to approach Clifford.
When?
Soon. Before Arthur files any guardianship petition. But we need to be smart about it. If Clifford tells Arthur we're investigating, they'll lawyer up, destroy evidence, close ranks. We get one shot at this.
Wally had been listening on speakerphone. His voice came through, thoughtful and careful.
What if Vera approaches him? Alone. Not officially. Just a worried old woman asking questions about her test. Non-threatening. He might say something incriminating if he doesn't feel cornered.
It's risky. If he tells Arthur.
He won't, because I'll give him a way out. I'll tell him I know about the payment, that I know what he did, but that I'm willing to forget it if he tells me the truth. People confess when they think confession will save them.
Silence on the line. Then Sarah's voice, reluctant admiration creeping through.
You've gotten good at this.
I've had good teachers, and strong motivation.
They planned it carefully. Vera would approach Clifford at the end of his shift, in the DMV parking lot where there were security cameras but no audio recording. She'd wear a wire, one of the recording devices from her house, tucked into her coat pocket. Whatever he said, they'd have proof. The day came cold and gray, the kind of November afternoon that threatened snow, but delivered only bitter wind. Vera sat in her car, borrowed from Wally, since she'd lost her license, and waited for Clifford to emerge from the DMV building. He came out at 5:15, collar turned up against the wind, walking quickly toward a beat-up sedan that had seen better days. Everything about him spoke of financial strain. The worn coat, the shoes that needed replacing. A man one crisis away from disaster. Perfect.
Mr. Barnes?
He turned, recognition and confusion crossing his face. Then something else. Fear, maybe. Or guilt. Hard to tell in the fading light.
Mrs. Thompson. Hello. What are you doing here?
I wanted to talk to you about my test.
She watched him swallow. Watched his eyes dart toward the building, toward his car, looking for escape routes.
Your test was legitimate, Mrs. Thompson. I'm sorry you didn't pass, but I scored you fairly.
You marked me down for not stopping at a stop sign, but I did stop. I counted to 3, like I always do. You were standing right there. You saw me stop.
His face went pale. The wind picked up, rattling a chain on a nearby flagpole.
Memory can be tricky. especially when you're nervous during a test.
My memory is fine. What I'm wondering about is yours. Do you remember a payment? $5,000 from my husband to your son Tyler, 2 days before my test.
All the color drained from his face. He looked like he might be sick.
That's not, Mrs. Thompson. I think you should go home.
I will, right after you tell me the truth. Did my husband pay you to fail me?
Clifford's hand found his car door, gripping it like a lifeline. When he spoke, his voice was barely audible over the wind.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I think you do. I think Arthur came to you with an offer. He'd help with Tyler's debts. Your son's gambling problem must be expensive. And in exchange, you'd make sure I didn't pass my driving test. Am I wrong?
Silence, the kind that screamed guilt louder than any confession.
Here's what I know about you, Mr. Barnes. You've worked for the DMV for 20 years. Clean record, good employee. You're not a bad man. You're just a father trying to help his son. I understand that. I'm a mother too.
His eyes, when they met hers, were wet.
Tyler was going to get hurt. These people he owes money to, they don't negotiate. I didn't know what else to do.
So Arthur offered to help.
He said it wasn't really lying. That you were getting older. That your driving probably wasn't safe anyway. That he was trying to protect you from getting into an accident. He made it sound like I'd be doing a good thing.
Classic Arthur, making his crimes sound like kindness.
But you knew the truth. You knew I drove fine, that I passed that test.
Clifford's shoulders slumped. The fight went out of him all at once.
You parallel parked perfectly on the first try. You stopped at every sign. Your lane changes were textbook. I've failed people who were better drivers than some I've passed. But you deserved to pass. I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry.
There it was, full confession. Vera felt the weight of the recording device in her pocket, capturing every word.
I believe you, and I want to help you.
Help me?
What you did was wrong, but I understand why you did it. If you come forward now, if you tell the truth before lawyers and investigators drag it out of you, it might go easier. You might keep your job, avoid criminal charges, but you have to decide quickly, because my husband is filing for guardianship. He's trying to have me declared incompetent. And when he does, I'm going to fight it. And everything is going to come out.
Clifford stared at her. For the first time, really seeing her. Not as Arthur's confused wife, but as someone dangerous.
You knew. About the test. About the money. You've known all along.
I know a lot of things, Mr. Barnes. The question is what you're going to do with what you know.
She handed him a business card. Sarah Mitchell's name, phone number, email address.
This is my attorney. If you want to get ahead of this, call her. Tell her everything. She'll help you navigate what comes next. But you need to decide soon. Days, not weeks.
He took the card with shaking hands. Vera got into Wally's car, started the engine, and drove away. In her rearview mirror, she saw Clifford still standing there, card in hand, the wind whipping his coat around his legs. She'd done it. She'd gotten the confession. Now they'd see if Clifford had enough sense to save himself. 2 days later, Sarah called.
Clifford Barnes came in this morning with a lawyer. He's ready to make a formal statement about the bribery. He'll testify if we need him to. Vera, we have everything. The affair, the conspiracy, the fraud. We can file for protective orders. We can stop this guardianship before it starts. We can win.
Win. The word felt strange. Vera had spent 45 years believing marriage wasn't about winning or losing, that it was partnership, compromise, shared life. She'd been wrong. Marriage was exactly like everything else. There were victors and victims. And she'd been a victim long enough.
When do we move?
Arthur hasn't filed the guardianship petition yet. He's still building his case, probably waiting for a few more incidents of your supposed incompetence. but we have everything we need for a restraining order and to file for divorce on grounds of adultery and fraud. The moment he files for guardianship, we hit back. Hard. Are you ready?
Ready? Was she ready to watch 45 years of marriage explode? To see Arthur's face when he realized she'd outplayed him? To stand in court and detail every betrayal, every lie, every calculated cruelty?
I'm ready.
That night, Vera made dinner like always. Pot roast, Arthur's favorite. They ate in the usual silence, broken only by the scrape of silverware on plates and Arthur's occasional comments about the news. Normal, everything normal. Except Vera was counting down. Days until Arthur filed his petition. Days until she filed her response. Days until the whole rotten structure came crashing down.
You seem better lately, more focused.
She looked up, meeting his eyes. Wondered if he could see the truth there, that she was better because she had purpose now. Direction. A war to win.
I've been trying, taking my vitamins, getting more rest, like you suggested.
Good. That's good. I worry about you, Vera. You know that.
Lies. All lies. He worried about her the way you worried about an obstacle, something to be managed, removed, discarded.
I know, you've always taken such good care of me.
More lies, but hers were tactical, survival, justice. His were just cruel. After dinner, after Arthur retreated to his study for his nightly call with Brenda, did he even bother to hide it anymore? Vera sat in the kitchen with her ledger. She wrote down the date. Then, in her careful handwriting, all evidence collected. Clifford will testify. Trial preparation begins. Countdown started. She closed the book and looked around the kitchen. This house, these walls, 45 years of her life lived here. Breakfast made, children raised, dreams quietly surrendered. Had it all been a lie? Or had there been truth once, before Arthur's boredom and Brenda's ambition poisoned everything? Maybe it didn't matter. Maybe some things couldn't be saved, only survived. Upstairs, through the heating vents, she could hear Arthur's voice, low and intimate, talking to Brenda about their future, their plans, their beach house in Costa Rica, funded by Vera's erasure. Let them plan, let them dream. Vera had plans too, and unlike theirs, her plans were going to come true. 3 days later, it happened. The mail carrier delivered a thick envelope addressed to Vera. Inside, legal documents. Petition for appointment of guardian for disabled adult. Filed by Arthur Thompson and Brenda Collins. Requesting full guardianship over Vera Mae Thompson, age 69, citing severe cognitive decline, inability to manage personal affairs, and danger to self. Vera read every word. Saw herself described as confused, incompetent, declining. Saw lies dressed up as concern. Saw her entire life reduced to a legal fiction designed to rob her of everything. She set the documents on the kitchen table, picked up her phone, dialed Sarah Mitchell.
They filed. It's time.
I'll have our response ready by tomorrow morning. Restraining order against Arthur and Brenda. Emergency hearing to stop the guardianship. Full presentation of evidence. The affair, the bribery, the fraud. Vera, by this time next week, everyone will know what they tried to do to you.
Vera looked at the petition again, at Arthur's signature, at Brenda's, at the lies that would soon be their undoing.
Good. Let them know. Let everyone know.
That night, she slept better than she had in months. Arthur beside her, snoring peacefully, unaware that the trap he'd built was about to spring shut. With him inside, the war had been fought in shadows, in whispers and recordings and secret meetings, in stolen bank records and coerced confessions.
The betrayal has been revealed, but the war is just beginning. Continue to Part 2 to see Vera's revenge.